So that's the latest from India, banning 59 Chinese apps. The standoff, as I said, in Ladakh still remains that, a standoff, multiple rounds of talks notwithstanding. And it won't be resolved in a hurry, we can tell you. Also, it won't be limited to Ladakh. India will face off China on multiple fronts going forward. And that's part of our cover story tonight. The next challenge from China will be Tibet, it seems. Why do we say that? Because we've been tracking the events on the ground too. Let me give you 5 reasons why Tibet is the next front in this fight. 1. China is taking foreign diplomats on a tour to Tibet. 2. China is attacking religious symbols in Tibet. 3. China is conducting military drills in Tibet. 4. They're recruiting martial arts fighters to their army in the region. And 5. An American bill seeks to declare Tibet as an independent country. Let me take these one by one, starting with reason number 1 on why Tibet will be the next front. China conducted a staged tour of Tibet for foreign diplomats. It happened on the 17th and 18th of June. Reports say this was organized by the Foreign Affairs Department of China's Sichuan province. It was supposed to be an assessment of the situation in Tibet, but it turned out to be a holiday. One report said that diplomats faced tight restrictions there. The delegation was handpicked. They were taken to scenic areas, tourist centers, and a school for the study of the traditional art. Why did China pull off such a stunt? The answer is in the next story. China is trying to hide a crackdown in Tibet. And that's reason number 2. China is taking down prayer flags in Tibet. This is a direct assault on the Tibetan culture, on their religious beliefs. How does China justify any of this? They call it behavioral reform. It's the same Xinjiang textbook now being deployed in Tibet. And this is how it works. Government officials summon the locals. They order them to participate in what they call an environmental cleanup drive. What are they cleaning up? Religious flags. The local police is deployed just in case. What are these flags? What's the big fuss about them? A Tibetan prayer flag is a colorful rectangular cloth. You must have seen these in photographs and movies. Each piece has a meaning. Each color signifies an element of nature. This is sacred to Buddhists. Their message is of peace, compassion, strength and wisdom. But China is waging war on these flags. Why should India care? That's reason number 3. Beyond the obvious repression of Tibetans, China's actions have serious security implications for India. China has been conducting military drills in Tibet and they're not even trying to hide any of this. In the middle of the Ladakh standoff, the Chinese state media has been beaming these images. Throughout this month, Chinese troops have been active in Tibet. And these drills have been geared towards India. On the 2nd of June, the Global Times reported that the PLA has conducted nighttime high-altitude drills in Tibet. It said, and I'm quoting, China and India share borders at the high-altitude area and incidents have recently occurred between the two countries' troops. All this leads us to the conclusion that the clashes in Galwan did not happen out of the blue. It was part of a plan. The next story adds weight to this. And this is reason number 4. China is recruiting mixed martial arts fighters into its army. Reports say a squad was recruited into the border militia ranks months before the border standoff escalated. One report claims that China had reinforced its troops near the Indian border, bringing in martial arts fighters as well as mountain fighters. The provocations have been one too many. What should India do then? Take a cue from America. A bill has been moved in the US Congress. Lawmaker Scott Perry has moved it. It calls for the independence of Tibet. If this bill is passed, America will recognize Tibet as a separate independent country. What's stopping India from taking the same stand? Not just the world, even history is on India's side. Tibet was an independent country until it was invaded and annexed by China. Mao Zedong, the founding father of China, oversaw 2 such takeovers. The first one was Xinjiang. This was a political annexation. Xinjiang has a complicated history, but here is what has happened in brief. In the 1940s, Xinjiang was independent. The PLA entered in 1949. By the spring of 1950, China had occupied most of the territory. Ultimately, Mao Zedong secured it through political means. Then he targeted Tibet. China invaded the region in 1950. 9 years later, the Dalai Lama was forced to escape to India. And India is still the home to the Tibetan government in exile. Now the Tibetans are speaking out. The Central Tibetan Administration has accused China of committing a cultural genocide in Tibet. They have reached out to the UN Human Rights Commission. They want the United Nations to hold a special session on China's human rights violations in Tibet. India should throw its weight behind this.